So as we're walking this way, we're walking towards the Hall of Supreme Harmony. If we can spin the camera, and this is the largest piece of architecture in the Palace Museum. You might think this Hall of Supreme Harmony, 太和殿, is majestic, is humongous. This is not just large, I think this is overwhelming. But what if I tell you, when the hall was built for the first time, back in 1421, the size of the building was twice as big as this, all right? So, as you can tell, there's one evidence, there's one thing that I can share with you that indicates the building was much bigger than this. If you take a look at the size of the marble terrace, and if you see it, maybe from a closer range, maybe more than one time, then you would definitely know what I'm talking about. Because the marble terrace is way much larger than the building. So which tells us that the marble terrace was designed for a building of a much bigger size. So as a matter of fact, Fengxian that was the official name of the building when it was built in the Ming Dynasty for the first time. The size of the building was like 2 times this. So what happened to Fengxian, to the emperor's office? Here's the story for you. 1421, January, lunar calendar. The third emperor of the Ming Dynasty, he just moved into the Forbidden City, right after the completion of the palace compound. He was more than excited, so he threw a large banquet. Like hundreds of the high-ranking officials, they were invited to join the emperor for this happy drinking session. And this is no working time. You don't have to report to the emperor about your KPI. Today, it's a happy venue that the emperor is very excited, because of his new palace. So everyone was dedicating like a glass of wine to the emperor, saying something pleasing the emperor, saying that what a sounding decision of moving the capital from Nanjing to Beijing. May your palace, the glory of the palace, last for another 1,000 years. The emperor was flattered until there was one man who's from the Department of Astronomy. So until there was one man who slowly approached to the emperor with a very serious poker face. The emperor, he thought, this guy, there must be something wrong with this guy. He looked rather serious. And the guy came to the emperor saying that there is a very important piece of message I bring from the god. Well, the emperor, all of a sudden, he was shaking off this little tipsy time. He said, oh, from the god, because all the Chinese emperors, they believe the power came from the heaven, the god of heaven. Not to say that this guy is from a department institute where they read stars. According to the ancient science, we believe that the moving of the stars tells you the fortune. So this guy, the emperor, became serious now. And so what would that message be? And the guy said, from now on, 3 months, noon time, 12 o'clock. Well, they would say 50, noon time. Your proud palace will be hit by lightning from the sky and will be burned down to ashes by this fire. The emperor was enraged because, as you can imagine, that was the first day he moved to his new house. He would expect nothing but maybe a housewarming gift, maybe a bottle of wine, rather than this cursing, fortune telling. So the emperor sent this guy to jail, but he told the guards not to harm him. He said, in 3 months' time, I'm going to get him out of the cell. I will force him to see this, nothing will happen to my palace. We will witness this together, all right? So he's telling me, he's lying to the audience. So 3 months later, guess what happened? The emperor sent someone to get the official out of the cell, before his predicted time. And they found that this guy already hung himself in the cell because this official, he knows for sure that whether there will be lightning or destruction of the palace or not, he died anyway. So he'd rather end his own life before being humiliated by the emperor. So about 1 hour after his death, his suicide, lightning hit the roof of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, and the whole palace was on fire. That was the first major fire that happened in the Forbidden City. We're talking about, okay, some of you must be curious and said, are you telling us that this fortune telling really happened? All right, because this sounds nothing but superstition. Like, this must be a false like message, where maybe you know, it doesn't sound very true. I don't know, but I know for sure it was recorded in the history of the Ming Dynasty. So if any of you is interested in finding if this incident really happened, you're more than welcome to maybe look up online and find more materials. All right, but I believe that's the first big fire that happened in the Forbidden City that burned the hall of ancestral worshiping. The emperor, there's a lot of story about this emperor too. He was not the legitimate successor, the guy who built the palace, because we're talking about this man whose name is Zhu Di, being the fourth son of Zhu Yuanzhang, the founder of the Ming Dynasty. But unfortunately, the throne was not supposed to go to this Zhu Di. Zhu Yuanzhang made a policy, because he has more than one son, altogether 26 princes. In order to avoid those brothers killing each other, the fight over the crown, Zhu Yuanzhang said the official wife, which is the empress, the eldest son given by the empress shall be the rightful heir, the one legitimate successor who's taking the throne. But unfortunately, his eldest son died 6 years before him, and that's why he's kind of skipped the whole generation by passing his power to his eldest grandson, which irritated all his sons. And that's the start, or the reason of the start of this power struggle. And that's why there was a power struggle within the family. Finally, the fourth son of Zhu Yuanzhang, he launched this rebellion against the young nephew, and the war that lasted for about 4 years or 3.5 years. And the winner is Zhu Di. He successfully walked into the city of Nanjing. Well, please note that the capital at that time was not Beijing, but Nanjing in South China. So after he usurped the power from his nephew, because he himself was brought up and lived in Beijing, he would take this capital, he would take this city as his hometown. He knows every land and water, and he's familiar with this city. And also, the big difference between North and South China is that it's 1,500 kilometers from Nanjing to Mongolia, but it's only less than 400 kilometers from north of Beijing to Mongolia. As some of the history lover, you must know that before the founding of the Ming Dynasty, it used to be the Mongol imperial family. The Mongol ruled here for about 98 years. So Zhu Di, in a way to inherit, I think, the will of Zhu Yuanzhang, he would keep sending expedition, military campaign, troops to north to terminate the remaining force of Mongols. And that's why to send troops from Beijing is much more efficient and faster than to send it from Nanjing. Because of that, they moved the capital from Nanjing to Beijing. And that's the reason they built this glorious palace compound. The construction of the palace lasted more than 14 years. But even after the completion of this beautiful palace, because Zhu Di didn't get his power in the, I think, designed way. It was by taking power from his nephew. It's a power struggle within the family, which I think violates the mandate of heaven. And that is, I think, how Zhu Di interpreted the reason of this fire. And that's why he dared not to restore the building until many years later, I believe 19 years later, his grandson, whose name is Zhu Zhanji, had this building restored. All right? As you can see, this beautiful snowy ground behind me, or around me. I guess that's the reason why a lot of people would choose to come today, because before the melting of the snow, I don't think it's going to melt for maybe another few days. It's classic. Look at this. So, what am I going to say? Oh yeah, I was going to tell you that most of the people, when they come to the city, their tour guide would tell them that when you're walking on this ground, you need to be very careful with those bumpy bricks. Like the ground is, uneven, because those are bricks from maybe 100 years ago. And also, to make it more, I think, intriguing, or breathtaking, they would say, why? Standing right here, let me tell you that there are, believe it or not, there are 15 layers of bricks underneath, while including this, the layer on the surface. It's because all the emperors, they're not loved by all people, right? They must have enemies. So the enemies will send assassins into the palace, and while all the gates are heavily guarded, so the assassin would have to tunnel into the palace. And that's why we put 15 layers of bricks like underneath, to prevent assassin tunneling into the palace. How breathtaking. Every time when I heard this, I was like, wow. That reminds me of like movies and games. Hey, 小心点. But as a matter of fact, there are a very complex underneath structure here. Not just 15 layers of bricks, but it goes way deeper than that. I think the structure of the underneath of the foundation is more like lasagna, because it's a combination of different things, like the compressed dirt, bricks, like layers after layers with dirt in the middle. And also there are like big, large wooden sticks at the very bottom that stick like deep into the ground. So we're looking at this Hall of Supreme Harmony, the largest building on ground, which is like sitting on this 8.3 meter high marble terrace. If the building is about 20 meters high up, then the foundation right here goes 20 meters underneath, because without that very solid like foundation, there is no way that we can still see the Forbidden City. We might have to take the elevator to go underground, because imagine with this much weight of the marble, of all the wooden structure, the glazed tiles on the roof, like tons of this building material, that makes the palace compound sinking every single second. So there has to be a very solid like structure underneath. And talking about the structure of the palace, here I'm going to leave you a little question. What do you think is the function of that little green cap on the ground? Can you see that? There's a little round something. Must be treasure. Do you want to open it? No, I don't think I'm allowed to. But I know what's inside. There are little wooden sticks with pesticide like paved on the surface to keep the termites away, because it's all wooden structured building on top of the marble terrace. So termites is like the biggest enemy. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to follow me, see, we chose this less crowded path just for you. See, that's I think not just the details from 600 years ago that tells you like how much thoughts and care we put into this like creation of the palace. And also after snow, I know that the marble steps will become very slippery, so the Palace Museum actually put this to get more grip on the ground. How thoughtful. And look at this. This is my buddy Tom. So, if you take a look around, there are hundreds of, actually more than 1,000 of those like animal heads or like gargoyles. The animal heads as decorations sticking out from the edge of the marble terrace. And if you watch carefully, you'll always see like there's a hole in the middle of this dragon's teeth. Maybe the dragon needs to go see a dentist. So the reason why there's a hole is because this is a drainage. So when it rains hard, when it rains cats and dogs, you can see a spectacular scenery, which is like thousands of those dragon heads is shooting water out through the hole in its mouth. So that's the function of the dragon heads. So water drainage. All right, everybody. Now we managed to see the main office from the sideway. The last restoration, I think, was finished the 34th year of the Kangxi Emperor. My math is not that good, so 1662 plus 34. I think that was the completion of the last restoration, like after the last time of the major fire that destructed the whole building. I think the cause of the fire the last time was because the chef was cooking on the site. Let's take this little walk around the crowd. So, as you know, everybody knows that Kangxi, whose Manchurian name is known as Aixinjuo Xuanye, he's also very hardworking. He is very ambitious. He was put on throne at the age of 8, and then he would never escape. He would never skip the morning audience, even if he's not feeling well. So, and also his working time is very long. Some say that he would not go to bed till 11 p.m. Think about it. Get up at 3 o'clock and go to bed and went to bed at 11 p.m. That's like how many hours, working hours. So sometimes, I don't know if any of you, my friends, if I'm complaining, like being a tour guide, we're doing this live streaming, work is too hard, there's too much work. Well, think about those emperors, all right? They're not like lazy people that only enjoy concubines and wines, all right? I think just the opposite. There are a lot of the emperors, no matter from the Ming or Qing dynasty, they're super diligent. Their KPI is extremely high, all right? They would get up super early in the morning. They would go to see how their sons study in their classroom, like 4 o'clock in the morning, then attend the morning audience, and then they need to read books and learn more stuff too. They need to have meetings with different departments of the state officials, then simple lunch in the afternoon. They need to see how they're the crown prince, all the princes practice horse riding, archery, and sometimes many times in a year, they need to go to the supreme ancestral temple, the temple of heaven, different temples of different functions for this ritual ceremony. If you think being the emperor, that means you're now in heaven, you're definitely wrong. I don't think, maybe a lot of us, including myself, we used to dream about being the emperor because of the beautiful food, and I don't know about the concubines, you know. But I think the more you read history, the more you get to know the Chinese history, the less you'll be jealous of the emperor, because you realize that there is a whole lot of responsibility, there is a whole lot of work that the emperor has to be committed to. For example, the Yongzheng emperor, who is the son of this Kangxi emperor, he was in power for 13 years, and it is said that he died of stroke. And I think the main reason for this stroke is because he overstressed himself he worked too much. All right, if you can follow me. We're taking a little detour, walking around the Hall of Supreme Harmony. All the main buildings in the Forbidden City, they're named after harmony. The Hall of Supreme Harmony, the Hall of Central Harmony, and the Hall of Preserving or Preserved Harmony. So as you can tell, harmony, this is of key importance to our Chinese, because we believe that harmony is the perfect status where yin and yang got perfectly balanced. So not to go to any of the extremes. According to the Golden Doctrine, Zhongyong, I think harmony is always like very steady, that stays in the middle, that neutralizes everything, it combines yin and yang together. So that's why Tai He, Zhong He, Bao He, and they're all named after He, which is the word for harmony. Zhong He Dian, this is where the emperor would maybe rest up a little bit before the main events, and also like every spring before the farming ceremony. As you can hear, the background announcement is the official announcement from the Palace Museum that tells everybody to be careful of the step, like the slippery steps. So the central harmony is where the emperor would rest, like before the major events, and also before every year, like any spring like farming activity. The emperor would come here and check the preparation of the farming tools and seeds. And also, so before we move on to the third one, there is one thing very cool that I want to show you. So for those of you who have never been to the palace, I think this would be an interesting piece of information. And I wish to guide you, like once you come to China. So, I mean, no matter how much I tell you about this palace, is never enough, not even close. Then when you put your own feet on this marble terrace, when you see the magnificence of the building, the grandeur of the palace with your own eyes, let me tell you, it feels very different. I've seen people like crying. I've seen people like taking jumping pictures once they come to the Palace Museum, all right? So ladies and gentlemen, one more time, I really encourage you, like coming to China, coming to Beijing. So what I'm going to show you is that, well, it's all covered in snow, but there are marble slabs, like marble stones, different pieces of stones on the ground. So if we start counting from like behind the Hall of Central Harmony to the Hall of Preserving Harmony, we need to find the sixth piece of marble ramp, the marble slab on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So maybe you cannot see that clearly from the other side of the screen. There is lines that tells us like the separation between different pieces. So I'm not simply having a counting game. The reason why we need to find the sixth one is because about 12 centimeters from the southern edge, the southern line of the sixth piece of marble ramp. This is where I'm trying to show you, this point. This is the geometric center of the whole Palace Museum. So if we link the 4 watchtowers together, then the 2 diagonal lines meets right here in the middle, and this is the center where I'm standing. So you can take this as the center of the universe. So if the emperor believed that the power comes from the heaven, now I'm standing at the center of the power. What I'm going to do while standing at the center of the power is I want to wish you a happy Chinese New Year. That explains, ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm wearing red scarf, a red jacket today, because in about 2 months or more than 1 month, we're about to have the most celebrating Chinese festival, which is the Spring Festival. And of course, I believe that there will be more activities, more things to see and experience at that time in the Forbidden City. But before the coming of the Chinese New Year, before the 2026, here, Visit Beijing wants to wish every one of you, old and new friends, who's been like growing and watching this program with us. We wish you a happy new year and stay tuned. Because if you want to see how emperor lives and how many concubines does the emperor have, we're gonna have to review that in our second episode. So stay tuned. We try to show you something new next time. See ya.